Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. And so glad to have you along with us as we once again talk about the history and tradition of the outdoors here in the great state of Michigan. And this is kind of a big weekend, isn't it? It's the opening weekend of the firearm deer season. Now, actually, we're doing a little time shifting here in the studio, so the weekend hasn't started yet, but you're listening on the opening weekend. Hope you have a chance to get out and enjoy the season. Hope you have a chance to get out and enjoy the Michigan's outdoors in the fall, although the weather this week really isn't, well, it's cooperating for some things, right? If you want to be on the river fishing steelhead or on the river fishing walleye or on the big lake fishing walleye or whatever it is, yeah, the weather's cooperating. It's nice. But if you were hoping for snow for the firearm opener, that just didn't happen. Just didn't happen. I was in a tree stand here one of the last few days before the gun season opened. I was up there with my crossbow. And I was in a new stand. I was waiting for just the right wind to get out there. I needed just the perfect wind, and I got it. So I got in a tree, and I was really, I had high hopes. Not high hopes of shooting a buck. I really don't, honestly, I don't expect to see a buck that I want to shoot this season. Not on our lease property. But I really want to shoot a doe. I mean, that's been a goal of mine since the beginning of the season. I want to shoot a big doe during one of the seasons. The archery season, gun season, the late archery season, doesn't matter. But I was thinking while I was up there in the stand, man, I wish it was colder and I wish there was snow, because the spot I was sitting in was pretty thick. And on that particular night, the deer didn't move until just before dark. But it was one of those nights where it was dead calm. Earlier in the evening, I had just a north breeze right in my face. And then just before dark, the wind died. And it was one of those nights where you could hear absolutely everything moving. There was no way a deer was going to sneak up on me that night, because I was going to hear him coming. And I could. I could hear deer moving from the east, and they crossed just a little bit north of me. Half dozen deer. From what I could tell, all does and fawns. In fact, I had my crossbow up on one doe, broadside at 30 yards. She stopped in one of our shooting lanes. Well, I thought it was a shooting lane, and the more closely I looked at it, I didn't dare to let an arrow fly because there was a little bit of brush there. We missed one limb that we couldn't reach from the ground. So I thought, well, I don't want to take a chance. So let her go. Oh, also that night, flock of turkeys. And I do have a fall turkey tag in my pocket. It's void now, but at the time it was still a valid tag. And this flock was led by 3 longbeards. I've never taken a turkey in the fall. Never really intentionally hunted turkeys in the fall. But I got myself a fall tag this year, and I thought, while I'm out there deer hunting, if a longbeard wanders in front of me, I'd take him. They also wandered through the thick stuff about 30 yards to the north of me and didn't give me a shot. Still, I was seeing deer. They were moving. I was in a new spot. It was a good night. And then right at dark, I hear crunch, 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 crunch. And something told me this deer was a buck. Just by the way, I don't know, I just had a feeling it was a buck. It gets into the brush, and then I can hear it rake in the brush. I think, okay, this is a buck. He's in there. He's working the brush over. He's mad. He's fired up. He's full of testosterone. It's the rut. But it was just too dark to see him. Couldn't tell exactly what he was. So I was wishing, man, I thought, man, I wish there was snow on the ground. Not this year. Not this year. Also, there's still a lot of corn up in parts of the southern part of the state. That's always a factor. When deer have standing corn, a lot of times that's where they're going to be. They love standing corn. If deer have standing corn, it's hard to get them out of there, short of having a combine. They've got cover. They've got food. They can bed in there. I do remember an interesting story from a few weeks ago talking with Johnny Eberhardt, the deer whisperer, telling me that he had the last few years been sitting in a stand on the edge of a cornfield, different stands, and lightly rattling bucks out of the corn. Didn't get a chance to try that this season, but that's something I'm going to keep in mind. So for opening day, and it hasn't happened yet as I'm here in the studio, but again, as you're listening to the show, opening day, we were out on the same property. I'm out there, my son James, my granddaughter Addison, for 3 generations of Michigan deer hunters. Addison wants to shoot a buck. She's not interested in shooting a doe. Me, Grandpa, I'll take a big doe and be happy. But I can't help being out there this time of year without, reminiscing a little bit. Thinking about when I was a kid growing up deer hunting, how my dad taught me how to deer hunt, such as we knew it. I mean, he was an outstanding hunter. He was very, very good. He had far more skill than I will ever possess. But he imparted some of that knowledge to me. But back then in those days, I mean, the opening day of gun season, my dad was a cop. He was a deputy sheriff in Kent County. Every opening day, the guys from the city would come up. So there'd be a couple of other deputies, the city being Grand Rapids. A couple of other deputies would come up. He had a good friend who owned a bakery in Grand Rapids. That was my favorite part. Because opening day, the baker would come up and he'd bring a whole bunch of donuts with him. So I knew opening day meant those fresh donuts from the bakery. And we'd go out in our different ways. My dad would be out there with his 30-06. I, early on, would be out there with my 20-gauge single-shot shotgun with a slug in it. Now, eventually, I got to use my dad's 30-06. I graduated to that. How cool was that, I thought? And the extent of our deer hunting was we were not out there bow hunting, so we didn't get a look at the deer early in the season like we do now. We didn't have trail cameras. We didn't have food plots, but we were surrounded by farmers' fields. You know, we had 80-acre food plots, basically. I didn't really know I knew that rubs and scrapes were created by bucks. So I knew that meant there were bucks in the area, but I didn't understand the whole relationship of rubs and scrapes and scent and all that stuff. So a few days before the firearm season, we'd go out and just build a brush blind at the base of a tree on the edge of a field. Just go out there opening morning and sit. And back then, if you saw a deer, it was a big deal. Because back then, most of the deer were in the northern part of the state, even the UP. Before I was old enough to hunt, my dad used to get in the car, like most Michigan deer hunters did, and drive to the Straits and take the ferry across the Straits to hunt in the UP. Because that's where the deer were, and that's where the bigger deer were. These days, the deer are in the southern part of the state, and the bigger deer are in the southern part of the state. So things have really changed. It means downstate people don't travel north like they used to. Now, obviously, still a lot of people do, but not like they used to. And these wonderful UP deer camps still exist. I'm fascinated by these. They still exist, but the deer numbers in the UP just... I talk to UP deer hunters. They're like, I just don't want to deer hunt anymore. We have more wolves. Now, I realize wolves are an easy scapegoat. They're a factor. There's no doubt about it. Habitat's also a factor. The deer yards aren't, there aren't deer yards like they used to be. So deer hunting in Michigan has really, really changed. But the tradition is still there. These days, I don't have a farm, but we were able to lease some property. We've had trail cameras out there since the beginning of the season. We've got food plots out there. I'm hunting with a Brenton 350 Legend AR-style rifle, which who would have dreamed of that when I was a kid? But we're still out there, and we're still enjoying it, and we're still having fun. And that's all that really matters, right? A couple of other things. If you want to get, and I think this is a wonderful Christmas gift, a Wraith 270 see-through ground blind from Primal Outdoors. Primal is having a 50% sale on their blinds, including that Wraith. If you go to their website, primaloutdoors.com, use the promo code Avery Fall 23, and you can get a Wraith 270 see-through ground blind for $130, well in time for Christmas. In fact, in time for the rest of the gun season. Also, talking about promo codes, michiganbrand.net, michiganbrand.net. Use the promo code Mike20 to get 20% off. Post your pictures of your young hunters and use the hashtag ForwardFuelsTradition. And at the end of the month, the folks from Forward Corporation will draw a winner. Charlie, did I miss my time? No music here? We good? Okay. And then one other thing. Wednesday Night Live at the Lumberjack coming up Wednesday, December 6th. Call for reservations, 989-343-0892, 989-343-0892. There is no fee to get a reservation, but you're going to have to buy your own dinner. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, Randy Budde of Savage Dog Outdoors talks about deer hunting, predator hunting, and more here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK 105.7 FM. You can hear us in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by VersaSkins. Just change your skin for the season you're in, and there is no better example of that than right now. With my VersaSkins jacket, when I switched from the fall camo pattern to a blaze orange camo vest over the top of it, it literally took 1 minute. I took the shell out of my storage bin, I put it around the jacket, I snapped it on, and I zipped it on, and I had a legal blaze orange jacket, and I didn't have to go out and buy a new one. If you're looking for big sizes, 4 or 5, even 6X, VersaSkins can help you there. And also, VersaSkins now has come out with a new saddle hunter jacket. Saddle hunting is so very popular, but if you've used them, you know it can the straps can bind up in your jacket behind you. Not with these VersaSkins jackets. They're designed for saddle hunting. So check them out online at versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com. Yeah, it seems like we got to talk about hunting right now, right? On this weekend of the show. As you're hearing this show, the firearm deer season is open. Randy Budde is a lifelong hunter, hardcore hunter. You can find him online at Savage Dog Outdoors. They're on Facebook and YouTube as well. And Randy joins us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Randy, welcome back. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing real good, real good. How's your fall going so far?
Yeah, pretty good. I was up in the UP doing a little bear bait and a little bear hunting there the month of September. And, we had a good time doing that. And just getting geared up now for the rifle season.
How did your bear season go? Did you guys get one?
Yeah, we had, I put in for a party hunt with 3 other guys, Kevin Rott and Jeremy Kennedy.
Kevin, sure, yeah.
Yeah, Mike Luttrell from Overdrive Outdoors.
Okay.
And then my brother, he had a permit for the second season. We had the permit for the last season, and we killed 4 bear. We'd like to done better, but
I'd say you did pretty good, Randy.
Yeah, they weren't hitting the bait the best. A lot of acorns in there where we were at, and my brother Joe. He killed one on that second hunt, but it took I think he hunted 4 or 5 days before he finally connected with one. He was using a open-sighted 30-30, old 30-30.
Oh, old school.
Yeah, got to make it challenging. I used a 1886 Winchester, the 4570 that was made in 1892, what I shot my bear with. Jeremy Kennedy, he killed one. Oh, yeah, my grandson, he had the last hunt, too. He's 11. And he ended up killing one, too, on, I think it might have been the second or third day of his hunt.
Man, you've got some bear brats in the freezer now.
Yeah, it was pretty good. But
tell me more about that 4570 you used. That's like a far cry from these high tech rigs you're using for coyote hunting at night.
Yeah, that gun's been in our family for a long time. We've never really used it much for hunting. It's just Dad ended up getting it back in probably the late 60s, maybe early 70s. Traded another gun for it, and it's just sat around, basically. And I inherited it, and I thought, well, make it challenging. I'm going to hunt with that old gun. I mean, it's a good old gun. It works perfect, and it shoots good. Just heavier. And then them open sights for my old eyes aren't really bad,
Yeah, I can relate to that. That 4570 though, that's just about a perfect bear gun. That thing hits like a truck, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's heavy bullet, bigger round, but going kind of slow. I loaded up 300 grain Hornady XDP hollow points in it, and I had them loaded lighter because that's a really strong gun for its time, but still, it's 131 years old, so I had it loaded down to about 1,900 feet per second. But the bear, he came up there, and he was right broadside, and it was starting to get a little low light, but I thought, well, I can see pretty good, and I shot, and, I mean, it seemed like he hesitated before he took off, and then he didn't really run all that hard, and I thought, what did I do? I miss him, and I went and looked. I thought I heard him run kind of off at an angle, and I went and looked for him, and I couldn't find no blood, and I looked in the woods, and of course, them woods are thick, Yeah. And I couldn't find him, so I come back out, and I called my brother and my son-in-law that were back at camp. I said, I think I missed it. And anyway, while I was talking to him on the phone, I got looking while I was talking to him, and I found blood on a tree, and the bear did not run the direction that I thought I heard him run. He run right straight behind the bait. And, well, they came back, and I mean, the bear left a good blood trail, run about 70 yards. He was shot right perfect through both lungs, but he was leaving good blood, but I was just looking in the wrong place. But yeah, he ran out of there like nothing happened.
131-year-old gun. I just think that's the coolest. How were those guns built back then? Were they pieces of art? Is there a lot of scrolling on, or is this a plain old workhorse of a gun?
Well, it's just a plain old gun. That 1886 was, I think that was one of the first lever actions strong enough to use the 4570 cartridge, and they made it in some other bigger cartridges too, like 4590 and stuff. And it's a real well built gun, but it's 131 years old. It's in pretty decent condition for that old. They're pretty 1886 Winchesters are quite the collector's item.
Well, and to take it out and use it, I think that's pretty cool. As you're telling me about this UP bear hunt, I'm thinking about a story you told me recently. I mean, I think it was last year or so. You guys were up in that same UP, and you were thought you were coyote hunting, and you called in a pack of wolves.
Yes, yep. There's there's lots of wolves up there. I don't know where the DNR gets the 631 wolf population from, but I think there's probably that many in about every county up there.
Did you know right away that you were looking at wolves instead of coyotes?
Yeah, because they're hard to distinguish, but wolves had howled at me. I let out a coyote howl, and wolves had howled back at me. And so I knew they were in the area. And I called a little bit, and I see them coming from that direction. So I knew it was wolves. But they are, after dark, they are hard to tell apart.
And they got right up on you, didn't they? Pretty close.
Yeah, they were like, I don't know, 40, 50 yards, some of them.
Did you go ahead, Randy?
They're not, I don't know, they're not that, probably because they've never been hunted or hardly ever been hunted. We did have one season, but they're not that wild.
See, that's interesting because I hear that a lot with people who have had experiences with UP wolves. If you go up into Ontario and hunt up there where the animals have been hunted, it's a whole different ball game. If they think they see you, hear you, smell you, or whatever, they're out of there because they've been hunted. That's what I think our Michigan wolves need.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, they, once they get hunted, and then they learn to fear humans. But if you don't hunt them, they don't. I mean, usually, like if you see them from the truck or anything, you stop, they'll just stand there and look at you.
Yeah.
Where like I've hunted in Ontario 2 years ago, a long time ago, and them wolves up there, they see you, they don't stick around, they get right out of town.
So, have you been doing much coyote hunting, much predator hunting this fall?
I have not. I've only killed 41 coyotes so far this year, and most of them I killed back in the winter and the spring. I got back into some competitive shooting this summer, so I been doing that more so, and not staying up going coyote hunting. But after rifle season, or maybe even during coyote or rifle season, I plan on starting to get back after the coyotes.
Tell me about the competitive shooting.
I got into. I've been shooting the Bentress Silhouette shoots down in Dorr. They're South Grand Rapids. They shoot at 500 meters, 547 yards at little steel silhouette targets. And you shoot at 20 different targets. You got to tip them off. And so I got shooting that. And then I shot some PRS shoots this summer up at Lake City there, the Marksmanship Training Center. PRS shoots, for people that don't know, that's targets usually range in the 300 to 1,000 yards, and they're steel targets, and you shoot some prone, but then you also shoot some off barriers and different positions. It's a time shoot. Usually you got 90 to 105 seconds to shoot 8 to 12 shells.
And when I heard you talk earlier about you reloaded for that 45-70, do you reload all your ammo?
Yes, yep.
Oh. Well, listen, Randy, hang tight. Maybe we'll talk about that, but we got a lot to talk about with Randy Budde of Savage Dog Outdoors. You can find these guys on Facebook and YouTube as well. Randy's a hardcore hunter, a hardcore shooter, very knowledgeable. He's always got some great stories, and he's getting ready for, as we're recording this show, the Michigan Firearm Deer Season Opener, as most everybody in the hunting world here in our state is. As you're hearing this show, hope you've had a chance to get out. If not, use this weekend to get out there. Hunt your hunt. If you're looking for a big buck, hold out for him. If you're satisfied with a small buck, God bless you. Or maybe do like me. If you don't think you're gonna see a nice buck, just shoot a big doe. That's my goal. But whatever, just putting some venison in the freezer, getting out there with friends and family, and enjoying a Michigan hunting tradition. More after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Flint on Sports Extra 1330 WTRX. And you can hear us north of the bridge in the Sioux on News Talk 1400 WKNW. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Matt Smith, Outdoors Realtor. Matt's a longtime friend of mine. He's an expert at finding recreational properties and vacation homes, and he can help your family turn a dream into a reality. I realize there's a lot of factors involved here, right? Availability of properties, interest rates, all that good stuff. But Matt says, look, when it's time to pull the trigger on making something happen for your family, Matt's the guy that can help you out. And by the way, if you're looking for a new home as your primary residence, Matt can help you there as well. That's Matt Smith Outdoors. You can find him on Facebook and Instagram. Matt Smith Outdoors on Facebook and Instagram. If you want to learn more about our guest right now, Randy Budde of Savage Dog Outdoors. Savage Dog Outdoors is on Facebook and YouTube as well. Randy, before the break, you were talking about reloading. I'm fascinated by this. I've never done it. Now, for a long time, you couldn't get reloading material. How's the availability of those products these days?
Yeah, I'd like to clarify there.
Yeah.
For a second here, Mike.
Yeah.
I'm not on Savage Dog Outdoors anymore. If they want to check out to see what I'm doing, they can just go to Randy Budde and on my Facebook page, and I usually post what I've been hunting on there. That'd be my last name spelled Budde. So
Budde.
they can check me out there. So,
well, Randy, thank you for that clarification. I appreciate that. Randy Budde on Facebook. Randy Budde on Facebook. So let's talk about reloading, though. Can you get materials these days?
It's getting a little bit better. Primers has been the hardest thing, and then certain powders have been really hard to get. When they come available, you better buy them because they're not available for very long. The large rifle primers, I don't know what's going on there. There is starting to get a few of them available, but it's been really poor. And then the price of the components have went up anywhere from 2 to 3 times as much. Primers are about 3 times as much as they were. They used to be about $40 a thousand. Now they're up to about $100 to $120 a thousand. But yeah, large rifle primers is the hardest thing to get. So there is starting to be a few of them show up.
Are you reloading not to save money? It sounds like you must be reloading for best performance then.
Yeah, we grew up around reloading. My dad has reloaded as long as I can remember, probably early 60s. And it's just, I've been reloading for over 50 years. I wouldn't feel right killing something with a factory shell.
It just wouldn't be right.
It'd feel just like you didn't earn it. It used to be that you couldn't, the factory shells were not very accurate. And so it was a big advantage to load your own shells. My dad, he was a competitive shooter too. And, but nowadays just getting some of the factory shells are starting to get pretty accurate. Hornady seemed to be the one that started that, and the rest of the manufacturers are starting to follow. So they're loading. You can buy better factory shells today than it used to be.
Randy, you talk about competitive shooting and loading your own ammo. Coming up in our second hour, I got a friend of mine named Paul Phillips, one of the best extreme long-range shooters in the world. These guys are shooting at 4 miles. Can you even imagine that?
Yeah, it'd be pretty hard to do here in Michigan. They
can't. They got to go out west.
Yeah, I don't know where you'd go to even see a mile around here. I try to. I'm friends with a lot of the farmers around, and I try to find some place where I can shoot longer range, and I mean 800 yards. It's kind of hard to even find a spot to shoot 800 yards because it seems like there's either a hill or a woods or something in the way.
Well, being friends with the farmers is probably good for your coyote hunting stuff too, right? Because they want you to come in and help them out, I would imagine.
Yeah, the majority of the farmers, they don't care one way or another about the coyotes because a lot of them won't let you hunt. don't want you to hunt the coyotes because they want the coyotes there to try to chase the deer off.
Okay.
The farmers hate them deer. I mean, we got too many does in this state, and the farmers are not in love with them, feeding them.
And that's basically what they're doing, isn't it?
It's some farms won't let you coyote hunt because they want them there to try to help drive the deer off and kill the deer. But hunters need to start concentrating on shooting more does.
Well, that's my goal for the season, is shooting a doe. I think I agree with you there. I think we need to do a better job, especially with impressing on our young hunters, that a big old matriarchal doe is a true trophy. She's harder to kill than a 1.5-year-old buck during the rut, for sure.
Oh, definitely, yes. I say that a 1.5-year-old buck's the second dumbest deer out there in the woods. The first dumbest deer is a button buck.
Button buck. I knew where you were going with that. Randy, hang tight. Can you give me another segment here?
Yep.
All right, we're talking with Randy Budde. You can find him on Facebook. It's Randy Budde, and Budde is spelled Buddi. Randy Budde on Facebook. Follow his hunting adventures. This guy's a hardcore predator hunter. He's very, very good. But coming up after the break, I want to talk to Randy about deer hunting here in Michigan. I mean, after all, this is the opening weekend of the firearm deer season. Randy's been out there for a lot of years. I want to find out what gun he deer hunts with, how he deer hunts, and what he thinks about deer hunting today from a man who has a lot of experience doing it. That's coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Muskegon on WKBZ 1090 AM. You can hear us on the other side of the state, Port Huron, WPHM 1380 AM. And let's go north of the bridge. Let's go to Marquette, WDMJ 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by... You know that sound? That's the sound of my Rapid River knife opening. I carry a Rapid River knife all the time. I would encourage you to check them out. I talked earlier about great Christmas gifts. I don't think there is a better Christmas gift you can get somebody than a knife. And a Rapid River knife, I think, is the best you can get. Check them out online at rapidriverknifeworks.us. That's rapidriverknifeworks.us. Better yet, stop by their showroom on US 2 just east of Rapid River. And this Saturday... If you're listening to the show on Saturday, there is a big buck pull at the Rapid River Knife Works factory, at the showroom there, at the shop. So that'll be an awful lot of fun. That's, I think, 5 till 7, but give them a call and check it out to be sure. But I think it's 5 till 7 on Saturday the 18th. We're talking now with Randy Budde. Randy, a veteran hunter, hardcore hunter, bear hunter, deer hunter, predator hunter. Randy, as you are in the Michigan deer woods for this opening weekend, what gun are you carrying?
Well, I got 4 different 6.5 Creedmoors. They're custom made guns that I'll be using, and I got some other guns lined up I'd like to take hunting, but one of them is a Thompson Center Contender pistol with a 14-inch barrel chambered in 7 TCU. I've owned that gun a long time, and probably one of the biggest bucks I ever killed in Michigan I killed with that. So I'd like to get that back out and hunt with it. So that's what I'll be starting out with, probably the Creedmoors. Those
Creedmoors, those are primarily your predator guns, aren't they?
No, I use a 6mm by 6.8 SPC for mostly predator hunting now for nighttime.
Gotcha.
Now the Creedmoors, the 6.5 Creedmoors are, I use them like for the shooting door and for the PRS shoots. I use one of them for that, and they're just a nice long range caliber. Actually, they're just as far as I'm concerned, they're the perfect Michigan deer gun where you can use a rifle. low recoil. They're usually pretty accurate, and definitely plenty enough to kill a deer with.
Randy, you've been hunting deer in Michigan for a couple of years now. Things have changed.
Yeah.
We don't look at it. We don't hunt like we used to when we were kids. What are your thoughts on deer hunting in Michigan today?
Well, it's been since I started in 1970. There's been a lot of changes. Back in 1970, we could kill one deer a year, and that was you bought a tag, and that was for $1, and that was the only tag you could get. That if you killed the deer with a bow and arrow, you're done. And they did give out a few in my area. They did give out a few public land doe tags, but they were just about impossible to get. And there wasn't such thing as landowner permits back then. And there was not that many deer around either. I hear a lot of people saying now, let's go back to $1 rule. There'd be a lot of big bucks around. Well, I'll tell you what, there was not. We had $1 rule, and there was not many bucks around, or no big bucks. And then the deer herd, it kept growing, and then I think it was, I could be wrong on the date, but it seems like maybe late 80s, early 90s, they give us, we could kill $2 with a bow, $2 with a rifle. You remember that?
I do. And Fred Abbas that year took 4 book bucks that year, and that'll never be duplicated because we'll never have that many tags again in one year.
Well, I wouldn't say never, but
well,
probably.
Okay, I won't say never, but I got a strong suspicion we won't.
No, probably not. Too many people are, the DNR might be okay with it, but too many people complain about $2 now. So,
yeah.
And I'm not the kind of guy that I don't think that other hunters ought to be telling somebody what they should shoot. If it's legal and they want to shoot a little buck, that's fine.
I'm with you. I'm with you there.
If you want to pass up the little bucks and wait for a big one, that's fine too.
Yep.
But, I think we ought to just kind of stop trying to tell the other person what he should shoot. And being a nighttime coyote hunter, I see how many deer are out there, and it's crazy how many deer we got, Mike. They're overpopulated. I in the lower peninsula. UP, that's
not so much. Randy, I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree with you more about this whole concept of hunters staying behind fellow hunters instead of attacking fellow hunters. I sometimes feel like we as hunters are actually the bigger threat to hunting than the anti-hunters are. But that's a conversation you and I can have for another time because I'm out of time. But I appreciate you joining me, Randy.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Hey, have a good season. Randy Budde, you can find him on Facebook, Randy Budde, Budde. Hardcore hunter. As you can tell, the man's a gun guy. He knows his guns. He knows how to use them. He reloads. And he's passing down this tradition of hunting in Michigan. You heard him talk about his son-in-law. You heard him talk about his grandson. I think that's what this weekend is about. The outdoor tradition here in the great state of Michigan.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And I think I've made that point pretty clear by now. This is first and foremost a radio show. It is how it is recorded. It's how it's scheduled. It's how it's syndicated. It's how it's distributed. And to be honest, it's how it's sold as a radio show. And I do believe the best way to listen to the content of this program is on your local radio station, your local AM or FM radio station that you've been listening to for years. If for some reason you can't, if you can't hear all 3 hours of the show, or if you live in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal, isn't it nice to know that there's a podcast version of the radio show available? You can hear that podcast on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. It's on my Facebook page. It's on Amazon Music. It's on Audible. I spend a lot of time on Audible listening to books. And when I found out they were going to start adding podcasts, and I got my podcast approved for Audible, I thought it was pretty cool. It's also on Twitter, now called X, LinkedIn, Apple Music, Google Play, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, yada, 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 yada. Even on YouTube. So regardless of how or when you are hearing my voice, appreciate it. By the way, I also do monthly podcasts for several of my advertising partners. Keep an ear out for those as well. So we're doing some time shifting in the studio this week. I'm actually in the studio a little bit early, recording this week's show a little early because the opening day of firearm deer season, November 15th, fell on a Wednesday. We usually record on a Wednesday. And I told Charlie, I'm not going in there on a Wednesday. I'm not coming in on a Wednesday, Charlie. Deal with it. He said, okay, we'll deal with it. So as we're recording the show, the opening day hasn't started. As you are hearing this show, it's the opening weekend of the firearm deer season here in the great state of Michigan. Is there a better weekend in the outdoors? Is there more of a visible celebration of the history and tradition of the outdoor lifestyle than firearm deer season? I don't think so. My good friend Paul Phillips, who is undeniably one of the best extreme long-range shooters in the world, will be out there, is out there this weekend, this opening day, this opening weekend of the firearm deer season. And it just seemed like a good time to get Paul on the show to shoot the breeze about deer hunting, long-range shooting, and more. So he has graciously agreed to join us, and here he is. Paul, welcome back to the show. How you doing, buddy?
Great, Mike. Glad to be on, and this is a super excited time of year for all the Michigan hunters.
Isn't it, though? I mean, well, we could gripe a little bit and say it's a little warm and we don't have snow, and that would be nice, but it's just nice to be able to get out there.
Oh, it's my favorite season, favorite event, and you put it all together, and the things that you love to do, and I mean, there's just nothing better for me to sit out in the woods for firearm season.
I would think that any deer within the county is in danger if you can see it during the firearm deer season, because you can shoot longer than the average guy.
Yeah, it's nice to have those skills and equipment and training, 30 plus years of, competitive shooting and military. And so, yeah, I mean, it definitely helps, but you got to see one first, right? So you have to be in a location where you can see the big buck. Right.
And honestly, realistically, Paul, I think a lot of Michigan deer hunters never get the opportunity to shoot at a buck of more than, say, a couple hundred yards.
Yeah, I think there's lots of areas around the state that I've visited, and friends that own property and state land that, even myself growing up as a kid all over up in the Upper Peninsula and the Lower Peninsula, there's plenty of areas where you can extend your ranges, but, do you have the ability to do that, right? And do you have the confidence, and do you understand everything that's required? So, we've talked about this before in prior segments. You definitely have to be prepared and know the ability of yourself and your equipment and your ammunition. And once you have that, then you have a little better idea when a deer does come out. You can be confident about taking the animal.
You mentioned confidence. You mentioned it twice. I find that very interesting, and I think it's so very true. You have to do the preparation to have that confidence. I think we, as ethical hunters, owe it to the targets we're pursuing to have that confidence that we can make a quick, clean, humane shot.
Absolutely. You know, I've been the last couple of years, you know, I've been going to many different ranges, and I go to sight in and, you know, do my thing with new builds, with customer builds, with friends builds, you know, that type of thing. And I witness a lot of things. And lately I've been seeing, you know, a lot of the hunters are unprepared. They're rushing. They bought a brand new gun. They want to run to the range, get it sighted in. And the ammunition now is very expensive. And I'm seeing guys just blasting through boxes of ammunition sighting in. You know, there's definitely needs to be some maybe re-education or better education out there for these guys to be safe, to have a proper zero, and it gives them better a chance to, you know, to shoot their buck humanely and hopefully the first round. Some of the things I've been seeing is, you know, they buy the gun from the local sports shop and they just assume that it's sighted, bore sighted. They think it's sighted in. It's not. Loose fasteners, loose bolts, loose mounts. I mean, all that stuff you need to go through and make sure that's all correct. And, you know, to sight in your rifle properly, you know, and get the velocity and get the ballistics, all that stuff needs to be done. I would say, you know, days before you go out and hunt, you should have confidence in that rifle. Those are the things I've been seeing lately, and it's just kind of frustrating because, you know, I think people should be better prepared.
How many shots, Paul, do you think for the average Michigan deer hunter, how many rounds do we have to put through a new gun before we can get it to that point? I mean, you know, I'm not talking about you, Paul Phillips. I'm talking about the average person. Are we talking it takes a box to get this thing dialed in and broken in, or what do you think?
Well, that's a good question. You know, I think that if you can shoot, you get everything, your rifle sighted in properly to where you can hit the same point of impact 3 to 5 times in a row, and you're happy with that level of accuracy, I think you're good. You don't need to shoot 50 rounds. Now, there's velocity migrations are talked about in competitive world, but as a hunter, I don't think you have to worry about that. I think 3 to 5 shots in a row in the same point of impact where it's consistent, I think you're good, you know, for 100-yard zero. Now, if you want to go farther, then you need to take it and shoot farther to make sure that you are able to hit those targets at whatever range. I know we did segments a long time ago out to like 500, 600 yards. Now, I'm not saying everybody should go out and shoot those distances, but if you want to extend, let's say you have a farm field and you have 200 to 300 yards across the farm field and you see bucks at those distances, it's not a problem. You know, you should be able to go and sight out, go find a range that has a 200 and 300 yard range and shoot targets so that you're 3 to 5 rounds consistently at those ranges. Then come hunting day, when you see a buck at 200 or 300, it's not a problem. You have confidence. You have the ability to, you know, adjust your scope to hit those targets or hit those deer at those ranges.
All right, let me ask you a stupid question. So you're zeroed in at 100 yards. You see a buck at 300. Mm-hmm. Do we need to have one of these fancy adjustable scopes to change our zero, or can we just do a holdover if we know how high we've got to hold over?
Both. You know, I mean, I think that, you know, the devices that we have now that have the built-in rangefinders and the binoculars with the applied ballistics built in, you know, you can utilize those, which gives you immediate distance and your adjustment up. That's the fancy technology, the expensive technology if you had the money to do that. But the old school, you know, 80s and 90s with you know, just your zeros written down in your scope cap, that'll work too. That's data. So you go to the range, you get your distance, you go your 200-yard range distance, and you go to 300-yard range distance, and you write down what it takes to get to that distance on your rifle, on your gun, with the ammunition that you shoot, and you're fine. So you don't need to spend the $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 it takes. You can go just shoot at the range. But if you're shooting at the range and you're taking down ballistics with your rifle and your gun appropriately, it can be done for very, very reasonable prices. Maybe just a few extra rounds.
We're talking with Paul Phillips on honestly one of the best extreme long-range shooters in the world. His website is globalprecisiongroupllc.com, globalprecisiongroupllc.com. Paul, is that the best place to send people? Is that where you want people to find you?
Sure, yeah. Or if you don't remember all that, you can just gpgtraining.com.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, gpgtraining.com, and then just send me a message. And, we're tailoring to all different types of, people getting ready to go hunting for the year, going out west hunting, going overseas to South Africa hunting, whatever hunting expeditions you guys are going to be going on, or just general training and knowledge. We're helping out the public now.
Perfect. GPGtraining.com. Paul, hang tight. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, more with Paul Phillips. Again, that website, GPGtraining.com, GPGtraining.com. I want to find out, well, listen, I'll save those questions for after the break, right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Ludington on News 97, 98, 98.7 WLDN. You can hear us in Sandusky on WMIC, 660 AM, 95.3 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Escanaba, the Riviera of the North, on WCHT, 600 AM, 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination, your fall fishing destination, your ice fishing destination, if we get ice, your fall waterfowl hunting destination. The folks at Linwood Beach have great facilities, great location. They will keep the docks in at the boat ramp as long as Mother Nature allows. And it could be well into December, could even be into January. Now, that's not good news for the ice fishermen, but the open water anglers are liking this. Linwood Beach will keep you in, give you the ability to get your boat in the water as long as they possibly can. And if your season is done, Linwood Beach can winterize your boat, and they can store your boat as well. Check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. While you are online, please check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Then head over to GPGtraining.com. GPGtraining.com. That's the website of Paul Phillips, one of the best extreme long-range shooters in the world. He's also a Michigan guy. He's a Michigan deer hunter as well. So, Paul, a couple questions for you. You talked in the first segment about getting your gun zeroed in at whatever, say it's 100 yards. You're happy with that. Then before you go into the Michigan deer woods, do you clean that barrel or do you leave it dirty before you go hunting?
That's a good question. What I like to tell people is when they first get, if it's new or coming out of the safe from sitting all year in the safe, go ahead and clean it before you go to the range. And then we like to, when we do the test firing, we like to get a couple shots through the barrel to foul the barrel. What that means is you're getting all the liquids and all the stuff out of there to get it cleaned out so that it has a consistent velocity after that. So you shoot 3 to 5 shots within the same consistent hole at whatever yardages you're looking at, and then you leave it just like that for the entire season. When you get done with the season, you'll go ahead and clean it and lightly oil the inside of the bore and the chamber so that it doesn't rust through the year. Now, if you're in snow or rain or any type of foul weather where you think there might have got some moisture inside your barrel, I recommend you dry patch that bore to get that water out of the chamber and out of the barrel. And that can be done during the season if you're getting into inclement weather. But I hope that answers your question.
No, it does. It does. You used a term earlier, proper zero. What does that mean?
Mm-hmm. That means basically that when you shoot your rifle and your knob on your scope is on 0 and your elevation knob is on 0 and your windage knob is on 0, typically hunters at 100 yards, he'll hit where you want to hit. So that's what I call zeroing your rifle. So that when your knob is on 0 and elevation and windage, you hit the center of your target at 100 yards.
What gun do you have with you as you're out there in the woods for this opening weekend?
Well, it depends on where I'm at. If I'm in southern Michigan, I have two rifles. One is a 350 Legend, and one is a 450 Bushmaster. Both have GSL technology cans made in Michigan. That's what I'll have for down south on my lease property. And then anything up north, I have a brand new 6.5 PRC that GA Precision built me on a brand new long-range hunter's Manners stock. So I'm pretty excited about be demoing that for them. And I'm looking forward to this season, see how I do.
Well, 350 Legend, 450 Bushmaster. I mean, those are two of the hottest deer guns out there. It's interesting. Now, when you say 6.5, forgive my ignorance, is that the 6.5 Creedmoor or is that a different 6.5?
Same caliber, but there's a new cartridge that George Garner helped develop, and it's a 6.5 PRC.
PRC, okay,
and
sorry.
Actually, it's a different cartridge. Same caliber, but different cartridge. It's very similar to the Creedmoor, just a little hotter, maybe 150 feet per second faster.
Now, you mentioned can suppressor. I got a wonderful phone call from the folks at Jay's Sporting Goods a few days ago. Gina Cannell, the manager of their gun department at Jay's in Clare, called me, and she said, Mike, we've got a can here, a suppressor, with your name on it. It's one of the Brentons when they were making them, but I think those were actually made by GSL. So I have a suppressor now, Paul. I can't get it until I get all the paperwork done. But man, am I excited about using a suppressor while I'm hunting. I don't see a downside to that at all.
It's great. I mean, there's so many benefits, I mean, obviously saving your hearing is number one, Number two, it's just less annoying to the neighbors. And three, it's just so nice in the blind when you shoot the rifle. You don't blast your eardrums. And, we've all been there. All Michigan hunters have been there once. Or maybe someone shoots, you're sitting, you don't know they're going to shoot, and they shoot. And wow, it's pretty crazy. But no, suppressors are awesome. I have them on every single hunting rifle now that I have.
How do they affect accuracy?
Well, let me say this. In the majority, I'd say 60 to 70% of the time, it increases your accuracy. It helps it out. And, you don't have that just loud, annoying bang, so you're able to come to your senses a little bit quicker, observe the deer, watching it where it goes, and follow up shots. It's just I mean, if you go, you wait till you shoot that can, you're gonna love it on that 350 Legend.
Well, I have very limited experience with you shooting some of your guns with a can on it, and I loved it. Yeah, I can't wait to get this one on mine. Now, again, forgive my ignorance, but I understand there are caliber-specific suppressors, and then there's also more generic. Like you could get one that would go from a 450 to a 350 on down. Is that true? And is that can inherently less accurate because it's not as finely milled, let's say, or the tolerances are looser?
No. GSL makes a multi-can. That's for people that don't want to buy a can for every gun. They can use it for many different calibers, a wide range of calibers. Some of the cans I have are larger bore than the rifle bore that I'm shooting, but it's fine. It's not going to affect the accuracy at all. In most cases, I've seen it where the cans help accuracy more than hurt. But no, you have to have a specific can for whatever pistol, rifle you have, and it should be similar in bore dimensions. But yeah, no, you can use a larger bore diameter suppressor on your rifle if you want to. It's not going to hurt anything.
No, obviously I don't have it in time for this deer season, but I certainly will for next season. I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, you're gonna be.
I know it. I'm so excited.
Say, man, why have we been waiting so long for this?
What do you figure? It's kind of a two-edged question here. That 350 Legend. Let's use that one as an example because that's what I'm shooting, a Brenton 350 Legend.
Sure.
What's the effective hunting range of that gun in your hands, and what is the effective range of that gun in the average hunter's hands, would you say?
I would say that, I've taken it out to 300 yards where I feel confident of its accuracy and energy. I think out to 300 yards is pushing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would say 1 to 200, no problem for you, Mike. No problem. Maybe 250. Obviously we haven't had a chance to get out this year, but
right.
I think 1 to 200 yards, no problem with that.
I feel completely comfortable at 100 yards, absolutely. And where I'm going to be sitting or where I'm sitting, 150 is the longest I would possibly take. So I feel real good about that. What role, Paul Phillips, does your choice of ammo play in this whole picture?
That's a great question. I recommend people that, are just starting out with any rifle, but for the 350 Legend, go to Cabela's or Jay's or wherever your local gun shop is, whatever they have available, and buy one box of everything that you can find. Or maybe a couple, whatever your budget has. And then you go out to the range, you shoot your 3 to 5 shot groups at 100 yards, and whichever one prints the best, you go buy more of that ammunition and last you for quite a long time. I mean, that's what I did with my 350 Legend, and it just so happens I found over-the-counter brand that works very, very good. And so that's what I'm shooting. So that's one approach. And
you let the gun. You let the gun tell you what it wants.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And I think for any cartridge, for people that do not reload, I think that's a general practice that I like to tell people is go buy a couple different weights of grains of bullets and different manufacturers and just try them out,
So if you I'm sorry, Paul.
No, go ahead.
If you and I, I was going to say not that you would buy a gun off the shelf, but you have. So if you and I buy the same gun off the shelf, I mean, two different guns, but the same manufacturer, same everything. They're identical as we can be. Is it possible that those two guns would shoot differently, or will they shoot the same because they're from the same manufacturer and they're the same caliber?
I would say that if it's the same manufacturer, same caliber, same identical rifle, just a different serial number,
mm-hmm.
I would say that they probably are going to shoot the same ammunition close to the same. Just because the reamer, the barrel specs, the twist rate, everything's pretty much the same, right? So generally those types of guns shoot similar ammunition the same, but not always. But that's kind of a tricky question because I would say that I wouldn't take anything for granted ever. I would always get the different ammunition and try it out. But the same exact rifle typically would shoot the same ammunition very similarly.
A good place to start, at least.
Yeah, good place to start. Yeah.
Hey, Paulie, can you? I want to offer you the coveted third segment, which doesn't often happen in the second hour. Can you stick around with me a little bit more?
Absolutely.
All right, we're talking with Paul Phillips of Global Precision Group. That's his company. The website, GPG Training, Global Precision Group Training.com, GPGtraining.com. We will take a break here. When we come back, I want to talk with Paul a little bit more about what this company is all about. I mean, listen, he's a I was going to say former Marine, but you're never former. He's a Marine, law enforcement officer, extreme long-range shooting expert, shooting consultant, but now he puts this company together that can help you and I, as Michigan hunters, become better shooters. So I want to learn more about it. The website is gpgtraining.com, gpgtraining.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Carroll on two stations, WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM. And north of the bridge, let's go to Manistee, WTIQ 1490 AM 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Boning Archery. Michigan-based Boning has been a leader in the archery industry since 1946. They continue to lead today. They come up with new products, new innovative manufacturing processes for both target archers and bow hunters. Check them out online at boning.com. That's BOHNING, boning.com. Talk now with Paul Phillips, who we normally think of as a gun guy. But, Paul, if I remember right, during the early season, you took a nice buck with your crossbow, didn't you?
I did. Yeah, that was a great experience. I got the Raven bow, and I went out preseason, did some scouting, found some sign, was excited. And the one day that I went out with the landowner, and we were, banging and cutting and making a bunch of noise, and I thought, it was like 3:30, close to 4 o'clock. And I thought, we were done with the blind, and I thought, I'll just sit for a couple hours. You never know. It wasn't 30 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes after, we settled down, and a doe came out, and a nice big 8-point was following her. And it was a 37 yards, and it was, made a great shot, and it only went 40, 50 yards and laid right down, and it was an awesome textbook hunt. I mean, it's funny, people are really critical when it comes to, buying the certain types of, camouflage clothing and making sure it's scent free. And here we are, we're, yelling and back and forth and telling stories, pounding and sawing, and within 30, 40 minutes, big old 8-point comes through.
Well, it does point out that deer get used to certain noises, like tractors don't seem to bother them, chainsaws don't seem to bother them, and in your case, obviously they didn't think of the random noise you guys were generating, the laughs and such. It wasn't a source of danger, concern for them.
Yeah, I've had this happen before in years prior, too. You'd think, oh, there's no way there's any deer around here. We've been making noise and pounding, but sure enough, they're all around.
At 37 yards, you must have, being an extreme long-range firearm shooter, rifle shooter, at 37 yards, did you feel like that thing was right in your lap?
Yeah, it definitely. 37 yards of the Raven is like, man. It's, I've shot several deer with a recurve when I was a young teenager, and 20 yards was kind of where I'd want to be. But now with these new crossbows, 37 yards is nothing. We were just talking about this. I have a couple of friends of mine that have Ravens too and crossbows, and we were discussing what's ethical range with a crossbow. Same as recurve back in the day. I think 30, 40 yards a long shot with a recurve, back in the day.
Yeah.
But today we were wondering how far we go with the crossbow. And I think all of us came to the conclusion that 50 yards was kind of like the farthest we want to shoot. You can shoot. I've shot a 3-inch group at 100 yards with a crossbow. But the noise and having the deer maybe jump the arrow, I just wouldn't feel comfortable shooting that far. I don't know how you feel, but
no, I'm actually glad you brought it up, because it is an interesting topic. Is how far is too far, and just because you can put arrows into a target doesn't mean you want to be throwing arrows at a live animal. I honestly feel, Paul, back when I was shooting a compound a lot and felt like I was pretty proficient with it, I don't think my effective range for hunting with a crossbow is really any farther than it was my compound. I think the crossbow gives you an advantage because you don't have to draw the bow. There's where the advantage is. But that arrow, because it's so heavy, and the power stroke is pretty short, it drops off pretty fast. You start and get out there beyond your 50 yards you were talking about, and there's got a pretty good arc in that arrow.
Sure, yeah, and I look at the noise, right? So speed of sound's around 1,150 feet per second, and if you get a 400 feet per second bow and arrow, the deer is going to hear the noise of the bow going off before the arrow gets there at 100 yards. So it's got about a half a second to lunge or jump or go down or whatever they do. There is a factor there. It is an issue. So I haven't done the math. I'm going to do the math on that and try to figure out
I bet you
at
will.
what point at what point the deer, But anyways, yeah. So for me, I think 50 yards and in, even though I can shoot targets up to 100. Now, anyway, so that's kind of interesting debate. But no, the crossbow hunting was amazing.
And here's something else interesting, okay? I want to do something that I've only done one other time in the history of this show. I want to offer you the fourth segment. That would mean the entire hour with you, and we will turn it into the Ask Avery segment, and that'll give us a chance to talk about this GPG training that we haven't talked about before. You up for it?
Sure, let's do it.
We're making Outdoor Magazine broadcast history, almost, with Paul Phillips of Global Precision Group, the website gpgtraining.com. That's gpgtraining.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Houghton Lake on the Twister, 92.1 WTWS. And you can hear us in Newberry, north of the bridge, WNBY, 1450 AM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by the good people from Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The way the Ask Avery segment works, this is your chance to get involved in the content of the show. You can pose a question to me, something you want me to answer directly or pass on to somebody else. The best way to get these questions to me is to send me an email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. In fact, that's the best way to reach me in general. To send me your pictures of your hunts, to ask questions, ask Avery questions, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. And we're doing a little bit of a melding here today. Because we have Paul Phillips, one of the best extreme long-range shooters in the world, on with me, I have people routinely ask me, Mike, how do you know Paul? What's his background? What makes him so good? So I'll tell you how I know Paul. I've known Paul for many, 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 many years. What makes him so good? I don't know. Let's bring him on. Paul Phillips, how did you get to this point? You are a Marine. You served in the Marine Corps. Mm-hmm. That's got to be part of your training. Walk us through briefly how you got to where you're at today, buddy.
Sure, no problem. Yeah, so I'm Midland, born and raised in Midland, Michigan. Went in the Marine Corps after high school at 18. I was in a scout sniper platoon, and I served in the infantry. And did that for 6 years. That's kind of where I first started learning the elements of shooting, fundamentals. And then I got out, and while I was going to college at Michigan State, I started competing nationally. Started competing with Palma, which is iron sights with a 308 at 8, 9, and 1,000 yards, and then also match rifle, which is out to 1,000 yards with a 300 Win Mag. I started winning matches and doing well. Then I got accepted to be on the U.S. rifle team, FTR team, shooting a 308 at 1,000 yards, and I did that for 30-something years now. And then also, I got about 6 or 7 years ago, I started shooting extreme long range and winning, King of 2 Mile events, setting world records, national records. So, it kind of found me, but I've been doing it pretty much my whole life. I also, in the law enforcement community, I went to FBI sniper school back in the day when I was working for the feds, and was teaching, in the law enforcement community as well. So I did a little bit of everything, hunting, competitive shooting, military, and law enforcement. So I've had all applications of how to employ, rifle marksmanship or sniping or long-range hunting.
And now you want to take that very impressive background and credentials and help us as Michigan hunters through this gpgtraining.com. Tell me more about that, Paul.
Well, originally, I've been traveling the last year and a half since I retired a couple of years ago. I've been traveling around the world. I went to Poland. I went to Saudi Arabia. I'm going to Chile at the end of the month going to tie into my hunting season a little bit here. And then maybe South Africa in May, and then around the country with Marine Corps Scout Sniper Association and Army Sniper Association, law enforcement SWAT teams in the state of Michigan. I've been helping out, military and law enforcement and competitive shooters for the last 2 years. I'm getting a little bit tired of traveling, and I'd like to kind of settle down in mid-Michigan here and, start catering to some hunters, because now that I'm retired, I have more time on my hands. So I thought, it'd be nice to maybe reach out to some hunters and help them prepare for hunts, and maybe help them with extending their ranges and be more proficient on their hunts. Because a lot of these guys, gals and girls and guys are spending a lot of money on these hunts with their gear and the opportunity that they see the buck. They don't want to let it, be ruined by not being prepared or not understanding how to use equipment. So that's my thoughts.
Well, I think it's very cool. I think it's very cool that a guy like you is reaching out to Michigan hunters and making yourself available, Paul. And I really appreciate you making yourself available for this last hour conversation. I know you're a busy guy, and I appreciate it. And I'm going to let you go, Paul.
Hey, no worries. It's always a pleasure being on. I love what you do. And keep up the good work and good luck hunting.
I'll say the same thing right back to you, my friend. The website, gpgtraining.com, gpgtraining.com. Paul, you and I will be talking again. That's Paul Phillips of Global Precision Group. Honestly, undeniably, undisputedly, one of the best extreme long-range shooters in the world. He's got a documented shot, I think maybe more than one now, at more than 4 miles. Think about this. 4 miles. At 4 miles, the time that the bullet takes to leave the rifle to hit the target, the Earth has rotated. They call it the Coriolis effect. So this thing is going way up in the air. The Earth is rotating, and he's still hitting a target at 4 miles. So when I say he is one of the best extreme long-range shooters in the world, that is not a boast. That is fact. GPGtraining.com. That's GPGtraining.com. We'll take a break here for the top of the hour. When we come back, we're going to switch gears completely and talk about a little fall steelhead fishing with Lance Keene of Steelhead Hunter Guide Service. Then, of course, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner. I don't know what he's got. Well, you know what? He better have a venison recipe for us this week. That's all coming up in hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network on more than 30 radio stations on a wonderful weekend in the outdoors here in the great state of Michigan. It's the opening weekend of the firearm deer season. Now, a lot of people wish that we opened our gun season on a Saturday, the Saturday closest to November 15th. And I get that. I get that. Personally, because I have a flexible schedule, I'm more of a traditionalist. I would just as soon keep it on the 15th. However, if it did change, it's nothing that I would fight. But regardless, this is the opening weekend of gun season. A lot of people in the woods this weekend. And I wish all of you luck. But because there are a lot of people in the woods this weekend, I'm thinking this would be a great weekend to go fishing. You'd have the water to yourself. I don't know if Lance Keene is on the water this weekend or if he's in the woods this weekend. Lance is a fishing guide, Steelhead Hunter Guide Service, his website, troutscout.com. But I can tell you right now, as we are recording the show, we find him on the river, and he's with us via his cell phone. And Lance Keene, I appreciate it. How you doing today?
Good morning, Mike. How we doing?
I'm doing great. It's good to hear your voice. I got to ask you, Lance, are you a hunter at all? This weekend, will you be hunting or will you be on the water?
No, I'll be on the water. I will be hunting, but I'll probably have to hunt in the evenings.
You'll be doing both then.
Yeah, I'm gonna try.
Tell me about your operation, Lance. If I remember right, you bought the operation, at least the name, from Gary a few years ago, right? Several years ago now, I guess, at this point.
Yeah. It's been like 14 years.
No, don't tell me it's been that long.
Yeah.
You're making me feel old.
We're getting old.
I am. You're not. Are you strictly a river guy, or you do some big water fishing as well?
No, I still do the big lake and then the river, and then I'll hand it over to my other captain that works for me through the summer on and off, and then I'll be down in Florida catching tarpon.
So where are you today? On the Manistee?
Yep, on the big Manistee today, yep.
Is Steelhead at this point? There's no kings left in the river now, is there?
No kings. Couple of co-hosts still are here and there, but mostly all steelhead.
How has the fishing been, Lance?
It's been pretty tough. The whole month of October was pretty tough because we just couldn't get any rain, and the rain we got went away real quick. And finally, it's finally cooling off. Finally getting a little bit of rain, but we still had low, clear conditions pretty much the whole steelhead season.
That's what I was going to ask you. Why do you want the rain? Is it a water level thing? Is it a temperature thing? Is it a turbidity thing?
It's definitely clarity, and flushes the river out and gets the bugs and the eggs trickling down more, and fish feel more comfortable when there's a little color. They can be out in the runs instead of buried over in the wood, and they're just not as spooky, and they actually they bite better.
Now these fish, these steelhead, they're not spawned until springtime, right?
Correct. These are just our fall/wintering fish that come in here, eat eggs and bugs, and winter up until springtime. And
then in the spring, you'll get fresh fish again too.
Yeah, we'll get it. Every time there's I wouldn't say every time, but a wind direction switch or a temperature swing or a rain or something along those lines, you usually will get a push. It could be in January, you just don't know. But anytime there's a rain, you're going to get a cycle of fish coming out of that lake because they're going to smell it. They smell the river runoff and shoot up in here.
Man, as you're saying that, I'm thinking there are so many different factors involved in what you do every day. It could be overwhelming. I mean, you've got a lot of years of experience doing it. Is it second nature to you at this point, or do you have to consciously go through all these things in your mind before you head out?
Nah, a little. I'll think a little bit on the way to the river, but try not to overthink it. Just go and let the fish kind of tell you where they're sitting or what they're wanting, and then put it together pretty quick and go from there.
Well, and you said pretty quick. I was going to ask, how long does it take? How long are you on the river in the morning before you feel like you got a handle on what's going on that day?
About 2 or 3 holes. 30 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what did the fish tell you today?
That most of them are in the bottom end of the river right now, and 7, 8-ish foot, a little deeper because of the clarity. A little slower just because we're getting a little cooler temperatures now. So they're not sitting way out in the middle. They're over behind the tree tips a little bit, a little slower water where they're comfortable, not burning so much energy. And, definitely had to run upriver because of the wind so bad and get out of the wind for a little bit. I would like to be fishing downriver a little bit more, but it's brutal. It's brutal.
Well, I know why it's brutal, but some of our people listening aren't going to understand it. Why is the wind a pain some days?
Just blows your line, messes your drift up. The boat's sitting sideways or 10 feet over to the right when I want to be 10 feet over to the left when you drop the anchor. You're not positioning to catch a fish. The ripples on the water, your bobber's going up and down. It doesn't look like a natural egg or a bug going down the river. Just everything about it's not good.
10 feet can make a difference?
Oh, yeah. 2 feet right now can make
Really?
a difference.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. They just don't want to sit out in the middle because it's just too low and too clear.
So how are you fishing them today, Lance?
We're running. Well, we caught our first couple on plugs. It was low light, and I was like, let's put these plugs out because it was pretty low light when we started, and we caught 2 very nice fish pretty quick. And then the sun popped over the trees, and I said, all right, pull the floats out. And then we hit them, and I think about every spot on the way up. And now we're just working our way back. We just caught a nice one about 10 minutes before you called. Real nice buck. But mostly straight back or to the side a little bit, inside edge, with just running floats, running bobbers back.
Early this morning when you were running the plugs, were you dropping back, drifting through the holes,
Yep.
or are you casting crankbaits? When you say plugs, which is it?
Just sticking them in the rod holders, and then I was sliding the boat back. Yep, dropping them back, with the boat and the anchor.
Do you ever cast cranks? That's become a pretty hot technique, hasn't it?
Well, this October kind of didn't have a lot of fish in the. Oh, hold on. Oh, dang, that looked good. We didn't have a lot of fish in the river, and we were casting cranks or spinners or some kind of plug, and we were catching kind of a mixed bag of steelhead, salmon, and cohos. Quite a few cohos, actually. But as it gets colder, I don't think the retrieving out towards the middle of the river, they don't want to chase it as far. That's why I think the plug straight in their face works better. It sits in their face longer. They don't have to charge out to get it. They can charge forward, which is energy efficient for them. Get them. Ooh. And I think that works better, especially when it gets colder.
What are you looking at right now, Lance, that's got your attention? I can tell you there's something going on here. What do you see?
We're just running floats, and these guys have been running it through here for a while, and just had a bobber drop where it hasn't dropped yet. And we were trying to see if that was a fish or wood.
So could that bobber drop being you're touching the bottom or touching a piece of wood?
It's one or the other. Bobber don't lie. It's either wood or a fish.
So what's the rule? Bobber drops, you lift the rod tip?
Treat it like a fish until proven wood. Yep.
Yeah, I think you've probably used that line before with your guys out there.
Yeah, every day I kind of have to read.
Where are your clients from today?
These guys are down Illinois area. They're frequent flyers of mine though. They 2 times a year, 2 days a week, or 2 times, So they fish with me. They've been fishing with me for a long time. Jim's came to Florida, and we do a lot of river fishing together though.
Isn't it cool that here in Michigan we've got these resources, these bodies of water, these fisheries like you're on right now on the Manistee River that brings people in from outstate?
Yeah, a lot out of state. I got people come from Iowa, South Carolina, Texas. So there's a lot of people that come up to northern Michigan to do salmon or steelhead,
What's that noise we hear right now, Lance?
That's just my anchor winch. I'm lifting it up, trying to slide these guys down, give them a little new turf to fish here.
So you raise the anchor, the current pushes you downstream, and you're in new water.
Correct.
Okay, I got you, Lance. I got to take a break. You keep fishing during that break. Can you talk to me some more afterwards?
Yeah, we're going to move holes, so maybe we'll have one on when you come back.
Perfect. We're talking to Lance Keene of Steelhead Hunter Charters, or Steelhead Hunter Guide Service. His website, troutscout.com. He got me excited with the fish on. There's nothing more exciting for me sitting on this end of the microphone than to be talking with guys who are on the water, and as we have them on the phone line recording for air, they hook into a fish, and I'll tell you what, Charlie, it happens a fair amount, doesn't it? I think it's because I talk to the right people. I talk to guys and gals who are good anglers, who know how to get into fish, and who are very good at it. And Lance Keene is certainly one of them, of Steelhead Hunter Guide Service. Again, his website, troutscout.com, troutscout.com. My name is Mike Avery. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I would love to hear from you, your questions, your comments, your criticism, your Ask Avery questions. Send me pictures of your deer from this season. If there's a kid involved, put the hashtag on it, Forward Fuels Tradition, Forward Fuels Tradition. More with Lance Keene after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us in Holland, Michigan, on WHTC. That's 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. And let's just stay on that side of the state. You can hear us in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM. Actually, it's good to be talking about Manistee because our guest right now is in Manistee, but we'll talk about that in a minute. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Killer Food Plots, Michigan-based family-owned Killer Food Plots. Now, I realize right now that you're hunting over your Killer Food Plots. You're not putting them in right now, but I do want to remind you that Killer Food Plots also has a line of scent products, a cover scent and an attractant. And then also Rich Krazan of Killer Food Plots will be at our Wednesday night live at the Lumberjack Restaurant on Wednesday, December 6th. Love to have you join us as well. You can call for reservations, 989-343-0892. And by the way, the website for Killer Food Plots is killerfoodplots.com. That's killerfoodplots.com. Our guest I was talking about, who is on the Manistee River right now, is Lance Keene, Captain Lance Keene of Steelhead Hunter Guide Service. His website is troutscout.com, troutscout.com. Cap, during the break, you made a move. Did it pay off?
We just like our second or third drift here. We're going to just kind of keep slinging it here. There you go. Pull a little this way. There you go, right there. Okay. All right, we're running now. Bobbers are rolling.
Bobbers are rolling. So, help me out here. Are the guys, are they quarter casting these out to the side? Yes.
Oh.
And they swing behind you, or are they letting them out directly downstream from the boat?
Basically straight down. There'll be spots where I have to park over like the wood or something. I go, just kind of give it a little flip over there and then, let her go. But most of it's done straight back or just rod length over and then set it in and let her go.
So are you using center pin reels to do this?
No, we're just running conventionals.
And then how far behind, how far downstream do you let the guys make the drift before they pull it up?
Every spot's a little different. Some spots you can run them 200, 250 feet if you really want to. You just got to reel faster. And then other spots are just quick shorties, 40 feet. Then boom, bring it back.
So when these steelhead come up, well, what kind of bait do you have below this bobber?
We're running beads, mostly all beads.
So artificial, strictly artificial. No scent on it at all?
Nope.
All right, so when they hit this bead, how are they hitting it? Is it probably this time of year not real aggressive?
That bobber drops, you can tell the speed of the drop. It drops pretty fast. Like there's no like little nibble in bobber twitch. It's boom, gone.
And are the fish hooking themselves then, or do you have to hook them as the angler?
When you reel, the bead slides up and then the hook gets them, kind of almost like circle hook fishing, but
yeah,
it's basically they just basically open in their mouth, letting the current put it into their mouth, and then when you reel, the hook goes in pretty much the top of their jaw. It's pretty safe hook placement, really.
If you do get in a run where you can let these bobbers go 200, way back behind the boat,
yep.
Is it harder to get a hook a fish then at that point?
Not really. You just got to reel fast, to get the line tight. Because basically, you're just reeling to get tight to get it in his mouth, and then, we've done it a million times, so I can't say it's not effective.
I guess I should ask you: are you running mono or braid?
Mono. Need the stretch for these wild fish. They jump and pull too much. Where I think the braid, you'd pull it out of their mouths a lot more when they're jumping.
So this time of year, they still put on a pretty good show.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Do your clients, Lance? Do your clients keep fish, or do they let them all go?
We've been letting them go a lot this year, just because it doesn't seem to be, haven't had that many fish in the system where we should be, shouldn't have to kill too many. I've killed a couple. I've killed a few this year, and it's fine. I don't mind it, but I do try to practice catch and release.
So is the relatively slow fishing, is that a concern for you as far as fish numbers, or you think it's just weather conditions aren't bringing them in yet?
I would still like to see, more fish in the river, but I can definitely say it's a lot of conditions related.
How was your summer on the Big Lake?
It was very good. and the river, when the salmon came up, oh my gosh, there were so many fish in the river. Phew, it was a lot. We left a lot of them out in the lake. Let's put it that way. We didn't do a very good job.
maybe next year. How late, Lance, in the season? How late in the year will you fish the river before you head south?
I'll be in the boat till about mid-December, and then my other captain will take over and do a couple between Christmas and New Year's, and then a few in January, and then we start up again. Pretty good in February, and then full swing on March, and then April comes. April can be hit or miss. It could be flooded, or it could be pretty good fishing. You don't know.
Well, meteorologist Mark Torregrossa says we're not going to get much of a winter. That will be good for you guys, or
yeah,
it will be, because it gives you access to the water, right?
Yeah, keep our water temps in the high 30s, low 40s, and rain, snow, spit, crap like that. That'll definitely help them get a little push of fish here and there with the rain and snow, and keep the water temps, not 33.1 where it'd be like fur, but yeah, high 30s would be nice, low 40s.
And if the weather allows you or your other captain will fish right on through the winter, right?
Correct. Yeah, we got the full enclosure heated. Oh yeah, no, we usually go unless it's blowing 30 and it's about 15 degrees out. Then we rethink it.
Well, you're smarter than your other captain, and you're smarter than me because you just don't even deal with it. You head south. Yep. This is something you've been doing, down in the Keys, if I remember right, Lance?
This will be my 9th season down there.
Wow.
I know.
I think that, and I think most people who know what you're doing look at it as a genius move.
Right. Yeah, it's very good to get out of the cold and come down there and catch a lot of strong fish.
Now, what are you fishing for down there?
Oh, when I first get down there, it'll be a lot of snook and snappers, jack crevalles, little baby tarpon. Could get offshore and maybe try to catch some tunas or something like that. But then by mid-March through mid-May, it's pretty much tarpon, permit, and snappers is what you just try to key in on, because the tarpon fishing, that's, everyone wants to come down and they go to those marinas and they see all these big tarpon around the marinas and they're like, we want to catch one of those. So
listen, any angler who says he doesn't want to catch a tarpon is lying, because we all want to catch a tarpon.
That's right. At least you want to catch one. Once you catch one, then you might rethink the second one.
Why is that?
Because they're one of the toughest ones I've ever fought. That's for sure.
No kidding.
Yeah, a lot of times after they catch one or two, like fully land it. We can't bring them in the boat, but you can get them up alongside. You take a picture. Usually after that, then we start. If we hook like his third or fourth one, we try to tighten the drag, jump them a few times, run them down, grab the leader, and try to break them off, and then go hook them up. 'Cause, 30 to 40-minute battle, they're kind of like wore out after one or two.
Why can you not bring them in the boat? Is it a legal thing, or just they're just so darn big you can't get them in the boat?
It's a legal thing. Over 38 inches or 42 inches, you're just not allowed to bring them in. And trust me, you don't want them in your boat, because I've seen pictures and I've had them jump in my boat, and it's not good. It's not pretty. You just can't hang on to a fish by its mouth and gills at 150 pounds with that much power, and not rip his head off or him hit you, or who knows what'll happen.
150 pounds.
Yeah. 120s to 160s are really, really common.
Oh my word! No wonder you're all booked up already for the winter time.
Yeah, it's definitely the people that have done it now have definitely locked in a year in advance, because it's a pretty good time.
So how does the operation work, Lance? Do you keep boats down there, or do you take your northern boats and just pull them down south with you?
No, I keep one down there. The 24-foot Bay Ranger, got a T-top and a trolling motor and a power pole, and fish three to four guys out of it comfortably, and works good. A couple live wells in her and big platform to fish off of, so works out good.
Is it a completely different style of fishing down there, or is it just like we do up north, just in the summer in different water?
It's a whole lot different. I mean, I think it's different. You got to go out and catch live bait. You can't buy the good stuff at the bait shop. Usually, some places you can, but it's not fresh. And yeah, basically you need some hooks, some leader line, and some heavy rods.
That whole concept of catching bait, I have just enough experience with that to know how important it is, but also for a northern angler, going out and catching bait is also almost an adventure in itself.
Right. I brought some of my friends up from Florida a couple of weeks ago, and we got to do some steelhead fishing and some duck hunting and whatever. And we went out on the river, and they're like, "What are you going to use for bait?" And I said, "Just these little plastic beads. It's like, we don't have to get bait." And they're like, "Oh my God, this is easy."
Those fish hit that little plastic bead.
Yeah, they looked at me like, "What is going to eat that?" So it was kind of funny watching their reaction. They're like, "We don't have to catch bait."
So if we go to the website, troutscout.com, I believe you can book summertime trips on there, but do you even have any openings for this winter, or are you all booked up now?
Oh, no, we got opening.
Okay.
Yeah, we got opening. Yeah, we can get you up here on the river. We can get you in Florida. We got stuff. So, yeah, we got plenty of stuff. We can make it work. But, yeah, everything's on the website, lake, river, or Florida.
Well, I'm going to make a suggestion here. Anybody listening to this, if you've got an angler on your Christmas list and you want to buy them what could be the ultimate fishing adventure, go to troutscout.com, and book a tarpon fishing trip with Captain Lance Keene. Lance, I think that's a win-win all the way around, isn't it?
That sounds like a good idea.
All right, man, I'll let you go. Have a good day on the water. I appreciate your time, and we'll talk again.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Lance Keene, Captain Lance Keene of Steelhead Hunter Guide Service, the website troutscout.com. I'm serious about that. I have never done it. I've had a chance to do a lot of fun things, but on my bucket list, I mean, I've caught marlin, but my bucket list would be a Keys tarpon. And how cool would it be to catch that fish with a Michigan captain who happens to moonlight all winter long down in the Keys? Pretty smart move there, Lance Keene. Troutscout.com, that's troutscout.com. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. I don't know, I got to look at my list here. There's a few more things that I want to talk about. We're in the middle of the firearm deer season, or at least the opening weekend, and I'm already thinking about fishing tarpon in the Florida Keys. Bring yourself back home. Bring yourself back to Michigan, Avery. Come on, here we go. Okay, I got it. I'm centered again. We'll find out. Well, hang tight after the break. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine radio show on lots of great stations across the great state of Michigan, including WIOS in Tawas. That's 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. You can hear us in Traverse City on WTCM, 580 AM. And you can hear us in Saginaw on WSGW, 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now, and here with Charlie Root. Doing a great job. As always, Charlie, I appreciate it. And it is a really nice day, so there is a crowd out there. Enjoy the crowds while you can, Charlie, because the weather is going to turn rotten eventually, and the crowds are going to slow down. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. Let Reader create an outdoor getaway in your backyard, as they have for me. This time of year, what are we talking about with Reader? Well, we're talking about dormant pruning. Now that the leaves have dropped, although there's a magnolia in my backyard, the thing, I'm telling you, it blooms like 3 times a year. Paul Reader says, let the blooms die off before you trim it. Well, Paul, they never go away. Anyway, dormant pruning is a cool thing to think about right now. How about looking forward to the snow plowing season, the snow shoveling season? Do you want to shovel snow this year, or have you had enough of it? I'm talking about at your house or at your business. Reader can take care of both. And the holiday planters. This is a very cool thing. They can spruce up your entrance or your around your house with holiday containers that they will put together and drop off at your house. How cool is that? For details on all of those and more, go to the website readerlandscaping.com. That's readerlandscaping.com. It is the opening weekend of the firearm deer season here in the great state of Michigan. Have you had a chance to get out? As you are hearing this show, I will have been out at least a couple of days on an opening morning with my son James and granddaughter Addison, as just part of this whole history and tradition thing. I am not that interested. I'm not as interested in deer hunting as I am, say, walleye fishing or bear hunting or even turkey hunting. But I love the fact that being out there, especially with my family, preserves in some small way, whatever I have control over, this tradition of deer hunting in Michigan. My granddad deer hunted, my dad deer hunted, I deer hunt, my son James deer hunts, and my grandkids deer hunt. So for me, that's an important reason to be out there. My goal, honestly, shoot a big doe. I'm not saying if a nice buck walked in front of me, I wouldn't shoot it. I would in a heartbeat. I don't see that happening. They're out there, right? And maybe he'll get pushed off state land by hunters. And, we've seen a couple on camera that I would definitely shoot. But I don't expect it's going to happen. And I'm fine with that. But I would really like to shoot a big doe. Like to shoot a big doe with that Brenton 350 Legend. What else here? The folks at Primal Outdoors have extended this huge sale that they're having right now on their ground blinds. If you go to the website primaloutdoors.com, that's primaloutdoors.com, use the promo code Avery Fall 23, Avery Fall 23. You can get 50% off on their blinds. Let's see, the Wraith, the Vision, and two more. Now, the Wraith and the Vision are the ones that I have the most interest in. You can get a Wraith. If you go to primaloutdoors.com, use the promo code AveryFall23, you can get a Wraith for $130. I've never seen a price that low on these blinds before. Christmas is coming up. What a great Christmas present that would be. Avery Fall 23 at the website primaloutdoors.com. As long as we're talking discounts, how about Michigan Brand? Go to their website, michiganbrand.net, michiganbrand.net. There's a promo code there, too, and I got to be honest with you. I'm having a mental block right here. I don't remember if it's Mike 21 or Mike 20. I think it's Mike 21. Try them both. Go to the website, michiganbrand.net. You can get 20% off everything on the Michigan Brand website. And you're going to want to get a Michigan Brand ham for Thanksgiving and for Christmas. That's what we're having at the Avery house. Turkey and a ham, and it'll be a Michigan Brand ham. Look forward to that every year. Also, Michigan Brand, we're going to start giving away Michigan Brand hams on Wednesday Night Live after Thanksgiving. I encourage you to join us for that. Also encourage you to join us for the Wednesday Night Live at the Lumberjack Restaurant in West Branch on December 6th. We do need you to call for reservations just so we know how many people are going to be there. We will have a full house, but we don't want to overbook. 989-343-0892 for reservations. 989-343-0892 for reservations. There is no cost, but I do expect that you'll buy dinner while you're there. I'm not buying your dinner. We will have some. We'll have some giveaways. But the Lumberjack isn't opening their doors just for us to fill their space. They'd like us to buy a meal as well. And the food at the Lumberjack is wonderful. 989-343-0892. Speaking of Forward Corporation and the Lumberjack, I want to see your pictures. Send them to me in an email, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And if your pictures involve a young person, I'm going to say, 18 or under or so, use the hashtag ForwardFuelsTradition, ForwardFuelsTradition. And at the end of the month, the folks from Forward Corporation will draw a winner from those pictures. And this is something we're going to do every month now, Forward Fuels Tradition. Dixie Dave coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. My name is Mike Avery. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Look forward to hearing from you. Appreciate you being with us on this show. And if you have been with me before at all, you know I like to wrap up each week's show with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner. And this week is no exception. The man himself is with us on the end of the Outdoor Magazine phone line. David, welcome back. How you doing, buddy?
Pretty darn good, Mike, and yourself?
You know, I'm doing real well as we are recording this show, and we're recording early, so I can take Wednesday, the firearm opener, and go hunting. And by the time people hear this show, I will have been out in the woods with my son James and grandkids, and looking forward to that. How about you, Dave?
Yeah, we're going to get out, too. I've been out a couple times now, and I haven't seen anything but spikes and a 4-point and a forkhorn. So there are deer out there. We've got them on the camera.
Well, I can tell you this. Big doe walks in front of me and turns sideways. I'm going to let that Brenton 450 bark, and we're going to put some venison in the freezer, I think.
That's good. That's good. I'm glad for you.
How about if I do that? What recipe can you come up with for us, Dave?
Well, I've got an Italian-style venison round steak. You know, if you took it to a butcher and they cut it with a saw, leave that bone in because the marrow will add a little more flavor to the meat, to the meal, you know. Or, you know, if you don't have a round steak, any steaks will do. Depending on how tough they are, depending on how long you're going to have to cook this, you know. So I've made this with veal also, this dish.
Mm-hmm.
So you need a 12-ounce package of mushrooms, 3 large carrots, 2 medium onions, 3 stalks of celery, and 4 or 5 cloves of garlic. Get that all set up and put it on the side for a minute. You need a 16-ounce can of a California or imported chopped plum tomatoes, drain, and you're going to save the juice because you might have to add the juice to this dish a little later on. About 3/4 of a cup of a dry white wine, a jar of chicken gravy, a teaspoon of Italian spice, a couple of tablespoons of chopped parsley to sprinkle on top after it's all done, black pepper to taste. You're going to grind it all over the meat before you flour it. The juice of a lemon, flour to dredge, and olive oil to saute. So to start off with, all of those vegetables, like I said, the mushrooms, the carrots, onions, celery, and the garlic, you're going to put it in a food processor or grinder, and you want to do it quite small, like pureed, and the French would call this mixture of vegetables a duxelle. It's pretty common in French cooking. So you're going to drain the tomatoes and save the juice to add to the casserole later. After you grind the pepper all over the meat, you're going to flour it. And on both sides, you're going to brown it real good. You want to sear in any of that liquid that might be left in the meat. And so when you get it all done, you're going to put it in an oven-proof casserole. And you're going to add the chopped vegetables to the browning pan. And that's going to lift up any of the flavor that's stuck in the bottom of it because it's going to get a little juicy. You're going to stir it pretty much almost all the time. You want to cook it for 3 or 4 minutes because you don't want it to stick. Add the white wine. And when it's boiling, you're going to add the spices and the chopped tomatoes. Taste it and see if this is the flavor you're looking for. And then so you're going to cover the meat with the vegetable mixture. Add a little lemon juice to taste. That little bit of tartness from the lemon is going to really bring out a lot of the flavor. Stir it gently, and if dry, add a little more chicken stock to it. Bake uncovered 350 degrees for at least 2 hours. Add more stock and tomato juice if you're going to need it, depending on how thick and rich you want this. When the meat is falling away from that leg bone, if you're going to use a round steak, it's definitely ready. If not, continue to bake it until it's done. I might have to check it every 15 minutes or so. Then I would like to serve this with rice or a pasta, crunchy fresh Italian bread, and you can sprinkle with parsley, give it a little color, and maybe some grated Parmesan cheese.
Oh, as always, you're making my mouth water, David.
It's lunchtime.
It is. And now you said something I laughed at here, not because it was funny, but because of the way I took it. You said, taste it and see if it's the flavor you're looking for. I would taste it, and I would immediately put more pepper on, and then I would taste it again and put more pepper on. I'm just one of those guys. I love the taste of pepper.
Me too.
That's why your poivre is so cool.
You want to do that one day?
Oh, how about next week? Can we do that next week?
I'm pretty sure we could.
I will look forward to that. All right, David, appreciate your time. Good luck hunting, and we'll talk again next week.
Same to you guys. I hope you all do good. Be safe and sane out there, everyone.
Safe and sane. Words of advice from wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner. And that venison of poivre, I can't wait for that. That is peppercorns, cracked peppercorns, pushed into a venison steak. You can't get any more peppery than that. And Dave's right. It is lunchtime as we are recording this, and it's got me thinking. All right, my friends, I appreciate you joining us on this edition of the Outdoor Magazine Show. I hope, listen, if you are a deer hunter, I hope you have a chance to get out this weekend and become a part of this Michigan hunting tradition. If you're not a deer hunter, I hope you can get out on the water and enjoy the open spaces on the water, the fact that everybody else is in the woods. Take advantage of the fishing. If you're not a fisherman, that's okay. I hope you can just get outdoors, get some fresh air, enjoy Mother Nature, enjoy the beauty of God's creation in this great state that we live in. My name is Mike Avery. The website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. The email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. The show is called Outdoor Magazine. It's been my pleasure, and I look forward to talking with you again next week right here on that show.